Imagine finding a door that leads to another world, where every skill you learn or item you acquire comes back with you to reality. Sounds like the setup for an epic adventure, right? For Yuya, though, the story kicks off with him getting beaten up. It starts when Yuya steps in to defend a girl being harassed by some thugs. Unfortunately, his good intentions don't exactly win the day. They mock him for being fat and ugly before beating him senseless. The cops show up, the thugs scatter, and the girl thanks him. Yuya brushes it off and limps away. His life a sad cycle of suffering. You see, Yuya has been the universe's punching bag for as long as he can remember. Bullied at school, tormented at home, his own parents favored his attractive siblings, treating Yuya like an unwanted stray. The only bright spot was his grandfather, a kind man who taught Yuya to help others, no matter how bad things got. But Grandpa passed away, leaving Yuya a house, some savings, and an unshakable loneliness. At school, Yuya's middle school graduation is a formality drenched in mockery. His yearbook, full of cruel messages. As he tries to leave, his bullies remind him he'll always be their errand boy, beating him up for good measure. His siblings, they watch unbothered. Things aren't better outside school. At his part-time job, his boss fires him for being late again, thanks to the bullies. Dejected, Yuya heads home to his rundown house, eats a depressing meal, and glares at his reflection in the mirror. Frustration boils over. He smashes the mirror and punches the wall, only to discover a hidden room. Inside are strange artifacts, presumably souvenirs from his late grandfather's travels. Among them, a mysterious door stands out. When Yuya opens it, he's met with a notification straight out of a video game. Confused but curious, he reads on. The door connects to another world. It comes with game-like systems, item storage, user controls, and more. Feeling like a protagonist in a fantasy RPG, Yuya checks his stats and instantly regrets it. They're abysmal. Exploring further, he finds himself in a magical house. A note on a table, initially unreadable, transforms into legible text thanks to a newfound language skill. The note explains the house belonged to a great sage who, nearing death, left everything to whoever found it. The property is sealed with powerful magic, accessible only to its rightful owner. The place is stocked with treasures, including weapons that are clearly extraordinary. Testing one out, Yuya clumsily swings a sword outside and falls flat on his face. But hey, silver lining, he unlocks a basic sword skill. For the first time in his life, Yuya has a glimmer of hope. Yuya, now armed with god-tier weapons, dives into training. Swinging swords, hurling spears. It's like a fantasy boot camp. He racks up new skills but can't shake his frustration. His stats are still stuck at level 1. Just as he's storing the weapons, a terrifying monster, a level 300 bloody ogre, appears. Yuya freezes. The ogre rages against the house's magical barrier, yanking up a tree in a futile attempt to break through. Yuya, heart pounding, decides to fight back. Summoning his courage, he hurls a spear. To his shock, it pierces the monster and kills it instantly. The spear even zips back to his hand like a loyal boomerang. The monster vanishes, leaving behind loot, and Yuya suddenly hits level 100. Staring at his boosted stats, Yuya feels a mix of awe and disbelief. After cashing in the monster drops for real-world money, wait, what? He calls it a night. But as he sleeps, his body undergoes a drastic transformation. The next morning, he wakes up to find himself unrecognizable. His clothes don't fit, and with his mirror still broken, he can't even see the new him. Luckily, the sage's house has magical clothes that resize themselves and offer bonuses. Dressed in his new gear, Yuya explores the garden, only to be attacked by a level 200 slime. This time, he's calm. With a flick of his spear, he destroys it, earning more loot, coffee slime, surprisingly tasty, and a rare necklace that restores magic power. His level skyrockets to 150, and he gains a new skill, presence detection. Life in the other world becomes Yuya's escape. He trains daily, defeating elite goblins and mastering his new abilities. Gradually, his depression fades, replaced by excitement for the possibilities ahead. By the time high school starts, Yuya is a completely different person, inside and out. At school, heads turn. His bullies, unable to recognize him, assume he's a transfer student. When Yuya reveals his identity, jaws drop. His transformation is so drastic, no one believes him. Later, his siblings corner him, accusing him of faking it. As if on cue, a limo pulls up, and out steps the girl he saved from those thugs. She's been looking for him. Yuya, confused, wonders how she even knows his name. If you are enjoying the story, why not like and subscribe? Kaori introduces herself and admits she looked into Yuya to thank him properly. She offers him a spot at Osei Academy, a school for the super elite. Yuya is stunned. It's not every day someone like him gets invited to such a prestigious place. Kaori explains she's on the student council, and her father is the academy's chairman. Before Yuya can respond, his brother butts in, demanding to join instead. He brags about being better than Yuya at everything. Academics, sports, you name it. Kaori shuts him down immediately. She's already done her homework and knows all about how his siblings mistreated him. Yuya, she insists, is her hero. Kaori reassures Yuya that Osei values character over academics, so he has nothing to worry about. Her attendant suggests giving him a tour, and before Yuya knows it, she's whisked him away, leaving his siblings fuming in disbelief. At the academy, Yuya meets the chairman, Tsukasa, who thanks him for saving Kaori. Though Yuya downplays it, Kaori insists he was the only one who stepped up. Tsukasa offers Yuya a full scholarship as thanks, but Yuya hesitates. He's convinced he doesn't belong among geniuses. Tsukasa gently disagrees, saying geniuses are just people who figured out how to work efficiently. Everyone has unique talents, he explains, and Yuya is still young enough to discover his. To ease Yuya's doubts, he suggests a trial day at the school. Yuya is introduced to a teacher, Sawada, a renowned scientist with a knack for making her classes engaging. Nervously, he joins his first class, worried he'll stick out like a sore thumb. When he introduces himself, the students are stunned, not by his background, but by his looks. Yuya sits at the back, sharing a book with the girl next to him. She seems a bit cold, leaving him paranoid she already dislikes him. Meanwhile, Kaori wonders if Yuya will fit in. To his surprise, the class feels normal, except the students are way more involved than at his old school. During the break, students flock to Yuya, bombarding him with questions. Is he an idol? Does he have a girlfriend? Overwhelmed, Yuya is saved by Ryo, who drags him to the cafeteria. Yuya's jaw drops at the menu. Everything is free. As he eats, he bonds with Ryo and another student, Shingo, over their shared love of anime. For the first time, Yuya feels like he belongs. Still, he notices people staring at him and assumes it's because of his uniform. Little does he realize, his presence is already making waves. During lunch, Shingo asks Yuya if he's joining any clubs. Yuya shakes his head. He's not in any. Ryo chimes in, saying he isn't either, though only because he's good at too many sports and can't pick one. Shingo, meanwhile, proudly declares he's in a gaming club. Yuya is surprised. Video games in school? But Shingo assures him it's fine as long as they don't play during class. Talking about games, Yuya begins to relax and enjoy their company. At the end of the day, Yuya meets Tsukasa, admitting he had a great time. With a newfound confidence, Yuya decides to join the school. As he leaves, he bumps into Kaori, who's thrilled to hear his decision. She invites him out, and they head to a trendy shopping district. Yuya wonders if this is where Kaori usually hangs out with her friends, but she confides that people often avoid her because of her family status. But you're different, she adds with a smile. Flustered, Yuya quickly suggests trying the crepe shop. Eyeing the prices, he's relieved about his steady income from the other world. As they dig into their crepes, Yuya enjoys the flavors but jokes about not overdoing it. He doesn't want to revert to his old self. Curious, he asks how Kaori recognized him despite his transformation. She smiles, saying his eyes are still the same. When Yuya mentions wanting to try another flavor, Kaori offers him a bite of hers. Embarrassed but grateful, he accepts and offers her a bite in return. She hesitates but takes it, just as a group of onlookers gush about how cute they look together. Later that night, Yuya dons his armor and returns to the other world. Venturing outside, he battles monsters, leveling up to 235. But progress slows, and he realizes he'll need to leave his house for stronger foes. Fueled by his experiences at the academy, Yuya seeks a bigger challenge. As he steps through his gate, a scream pierces the air. Gripping his spear, Yuya rushes toward the sound and stumbles upon a gruesome scene. Soldiers lying dead and a towering level 200 goblin general standing menacingly over a girl. Yuya hurls his spear, but the goblin deflects it. Seizing the moment, he slams into the goblin with a powerful kick, taking it down. Turning to the girl, Yuya barely has time to react before another goblin ambushes him, sending him flying. This one is faster and stronger, but Yuya refuses to back down. Using his spear to vault over the goblin, he unleashes a flurry of arrows with his bow before switching to his sword to finish it off in one clean strike. Checking on the girl, Yuya wonders about the humans in this world. Before he can ask, she faints. Hearing voices in the distance, Yuya uses his invisibility skill and vanishes into the shadows. Turns out the girl Yuya saved is a princess named Lexia. Back at home, Yuya can't stop thinking about her. Was she okay? Well, knights showed up to help her, so she's probably fine. Distracting himself, he notices his shirt. It's enchanted to stay clean, but it's been his go-to outfit forever. Time for a wardrobe upgrade. With some money from the other world, he heads to the mall. As he strolls through, shoppers can't help but stare, assuming he's an actor or model. Yuya, meanwhile, is overwhelmed by the sheer number of options. Elsewhere in a mall, chaos unfolds at a photo shoot. A director is fuming because their male model is a no-show. Everyone, especially Miyu, the female model, has been waiting all morning. The shoot's theme? A couple photo shoot, which means no show, no shoot. Desperate, the director decides to scout for a stand-in. Back in the mall, Yuya's browsing is interrupted by a group of girls who approach him. Assuming they're sales reps, he braces himself, but they're just eager to chat and even offer to help him shop. Yuya politely declines, leaving the girls in a flustered daze. He walks away, wondering if he handled that right. Meanwhile, the director is still on the hunt when he spots Yuya. Bingo! Yuya is their perfect replacement. Approaching him, the director explains the situation. Yuya hesitates but agrees, realizing how many people are counting on him. Thrown into the shoot, Yuya poses as Miyu's boyfriend, modeling in various outfits. The director demands a sexier vibe, but Yuya struggles to deliver. Miyu reassures him he's doing great for a first-timer, and Yuya can't help but admire her. When she moves closer for the next shot, he panics as she presses against him. The director encourages even more intimacy, and Miyu wraps her arms around Yuya, leaving him beet red as onlookers gather. Meanwhile, back in the other world, Princess Lexia can't stop thinking about her mysterious savior. Despite her knight's warnings, because who lives in a forest that dangerous? Lexia insists on returning to thank him. Back at the mall, the shoot wraps up, and Yuya feels like he's been wrung dry. Miyu, ever gracious, thanks him again, and just as Yuya takes a sip of his drink, bam, he chokes, nearly turning the moment into a comedy skit. Miyu quickly offers him her handkerchief, but Yuya freezes. He's sweaty, and using her pristine handkerchief feels wrong. His sleeve isn't an option either. The clothes aren't his. Great. As he awkwardly navigates this minor crisis, Yuya reflects on the surreal day. Modeling? Him? The guy who's never owned anything remotely trendy? He admits Miyu makes it look effortless, but she brushes off the compliment, saying she only got good after making tons of mistakes when she first started. Relatable, Yuya thinks. Curiosity strikes, and Yuya asks why she got into modeling. Her answer? Heartbreaking and inspiring. She wanted to be noticed because her parents were always too busy for her. Over time, the support from fans became her reason to continue. Bringing joy to others felt worth it. She encourages Yuya to take things at his own pace and enjoy the ride. It's one of those rare heartfelt moments that could have been perfect, but of course the director, in full paparazzi mode, captures their candid chat with a flurry of clicks. And then drama. Sho, a smug pretty boy, saunters over, turning the crowd into a frenzy. He zeroes in on Miyu, insisting they continue their shoot, but things go south fast. Yuya doesn't need superhuman instincts to see she's uncomfortable. Without hesitation, he steps in, and Sho's gaze shifts to him, sizing him up like he's an inconvenience. Sho throws a punch, but Yuya sidesteps and effortlessly tosses him aside. The crowd gasps. Yuya, however, is internally panicking. Did he just manhandle someone in public? A ridiculously handsome guy, no less? But instead of outrage, the crowd cheers. Meanwhile, the director calmly informs Sho that every humiliating second was captured in glorious 4K. Sho bolts, and Miyu breathes a sigh of relief, thanking it. Turns out Sho had been stalking her, and she didn't know how to handle it. The director chimes in, revealing Sho's behavior had been an open secret. This incident, likely career-ending. Then, shifting gears, the director asks Yuya if he's interested in more modeling work. Yuya is flattered but declines, saying he doesn't feel cut out for it. Despite the polite refusal, the director respects his choice, even gifting him all the clothes from the shoot as thanks. After all, they can't pay an amateur, but Yuya earned it, especially after saving the day. Miyu hopes they'll work together again someday, and with that, they part ways. In the car ride home, the director sighs, lamenting the loss of a potential star. Flipping through the photos, Miyu can't help but notice how different Yuya looks, confident, almost radiant. She turns red, and the director, ever the tease, calls her out. Miyu denies it, but her flustered face says otherwise. Meanwhile, Yuya is back in his own world, reorganizing his life. Somewhere online, his photos are already making the rounds, sparking a ripple of curiosity about the mysterious amateur model. Agencies are buzzing, desperate to sign Yuya. One determined woman orders her associate to track him down immediately. No way she's letting someone who held his own against Miyu slip away. Meanwhile, in the other world, Lexia's knights are battling goblins and losing ground fast. As a goblin sneaks up on Lexia, Yuya appears, cutting it down effortlessly. The knights are stunned, and Lexia is overjoyed to see him. With the goblins dispatched, Yuya tends to an injured knight. Lexia approaches him, and without warning, asks him to marry her. The knights are floored. Her captain, Owen, protests. Princess, we know nothing about this man. But Lexia insists it's love at first sight. Yuya, caught off guard, shifts the focus back to the forest's dangers and invites them to his house for safety. The knights are stunned to learn he actually lives in the dark forest. At his home, Owen formally introduces himself as the captain of the Arzelia Knights and Lexia as the first princess of Arzelia. Yuya, now realizing her royal status, worries about protocol, but Owen reassures him. This is an unofficial visit and he's their savior. Lexia thanks him again, admitting she's been thinking of him since he first saved her. "Will you marry me?" she asks again. Yuya, overwhelmed, stammers that the proposal is too sudden. Lexia takes this as confirmation that love shouldn't come easy. It needs challenges, like in a romance novel she's read. "Fine," she says. "Let's start as friends." Yuya, thinking of his past, nervously agrees. Owen reveals another reason for their visit. The king wants Yuya to visit the royal palace to thank him in person. Yuya hesitates, but Owen insists. It's a royal command. Yuya agrees, requesting a delay to focus on his new school. Owen assures him the king will wait. As they leave, Lexia warns Yuya to prepare himself. "Next time, I'll win your heart," she vows. Elsewhere in the royal capital, a man reports on the failed assassination attempt against Lexia. A masked figure, clearly in charge, listens grimly. The assassins had wandered into the dark forest and been wiped out by monsters. But the masked man is more concerned about how Lexia survived unscathed. "Don't fail me again," he warns coldly. He removes his mask, unveiling a face scarred by misfortune, and reveals his identity as a disgraced royal. With a venomous vow of revenge against Lexia, he disappears into the shadows. Meanwhile, at Yuya's house, our boy marks his calendar, a countdown to meeting the king. Freshly suited up in his snazzy new uniform, he heads out for his first day at the academy. As Yuya strolls through the campus, heads turn, jaws drop, and whispers swirl. Is he a model? When he arrives, the director offers a brisk welcome, apologizing for his packed schedule, but tossing Yuya some sage advice. Enjoy yourself. Yuya's grand classroom entrance is met with friendly waves from Ryo and Shingo, who are stoked to see him. The scene cuts to a lively soccer match, where a star player, Roy, dazzles the crowd with a goal that has the girls cheering like it's a rock concert. Watching from the sidelines, Yuya is impressed, until a girl named Keed sidles up and wonders why he's not in the game. Yuya shrugs, explaining he doesn't have gym clothes yet. Roy's on fire, weaving through defenders like they're traffic cones. Just when everyone expects him to go for glory, he tricks them with a slick pass to his teammate, Akira. Akira winds up for a killer shot but fumbles, sending the ball flying straight toward Keed. Before disaster strikes, Yuya leaps into action, not only stopping the ball, but scoring a goal with style. Cue collective gasps. "Who is this guy?" whispers a crowd, dazzled by his speed. Yuya checks on Keed, but she's too busy swooning over his effortless charm. Enter Akira, rushing over in full drama mode, begging forgiveness and offering eternal servitude. Keed brushes him off with a laugh, while Ryo vouches for Akira, calling him quirky but harmless. Akira, ever grateful, thanks Yuya for saving the day. Later, in a locker room, Keed and the girls are buzzing about you. "He's like a prince," one exclaims. Kaori and Keed exchange knowing looks, but insist that Yuya's relationship status is unconfirmed. Down on the field, Yuya waves to Kaori during class, just as trouble rolls in literally. A gang of delinquents on motorbikes bursts onto the scene, bats swinging wildly. Students freeze, whispering in fear. "It's the Red Ogres," someone murmurs, "the most dangerous gang in town." Yuya's blood runs cold when he spots familiar faces among them, his siblings, Yuta and Sarah. The gang circles the girls, with Yuta singling out Kaori as the director's daughter. Kaori recognizes Yuya's siblings and demands to know their business. Smirking, they declare their intent to teach her a lesson for looking down on them and for Yuya's acceptance into the academy. Kaori stands firm, warning them that the cops are already on their way. But Sarah scoffs, confident they've got time. The gang closes in, ready to snatch Kaori as payback. Yuya clenches his fists, torn between fear and resolve. He's faced monsters in another world, but standing against his childhood tormentors? That hits differently. As his legs tremble, Yuya knows he has to make a choice, fight or freeze. Yuya's panic has his friends worried, but he pulls himself together. Without warning, he opens the window and jumps out. The 4th floor. Everyone gasps, expecting the worst, but Yuya lands unharmed, like a superhero with plot armor. He charges straight into the fray, coming face to face with his old tormentor, Araki, who sneers, "Time to teach you a lesson." Araki's goons rush Yuya, but it's a one-sided match. Yuya ducks, weaves, and disarms them with ridiculous ease. Even Araki's attempt is ignored as Yuya focuses on rescuing Kaori. Before he can reach her, a mountain of a man, Amori, blocks his way. Amori charges like a freight train, but Yuya doesn't flinch. One shove, and Amori is tossed aside like a sack of potatoes. Yuya finally gets to Kaori and checks on her, only for the gang leader to rev up his bike and charge at them. Yuya dodges, and the boss loses control, crashing in a spectacular heap. With the boss knocked out, the police swoop in, arresting the delinquents. The students are ushered back to class, but Yuya stays behind to ensure Kaori is okay. She stumbles, weak from the ordeal, and he catches her. For a moment, it feels like time stops between them. Just as Yuya relaxes, the gang leader wakes up, choking him from behind and spewing blame. Sarah pleads for Yuya's life but gets kicked aside. Yuya fights back, breaking free and forcing the gang to back off. The boss lunges again, but Yuya doesn't even move. His sheer presence is enough to stop him. The students watch in awe, wondering what just happened. After everything settles, Yuya reflects. Despite their cruelty, his siblings are still family, and he couldn't abandon them. His words hit hard, leaving his brother in tears. They beg for forgiveness, apologizing for all their wrongs. Yuya accepts, and the tension eases as his friends surround him, impressed, and a little baffled by his window jump. Later, Yuya decides to explore the other world again, recalling Olin's ominous warning about the dark forest, monsters so strong they could wipe out a city. Intrigued, he ventures deeper, curious about the sage who once owned his house. In the heart of the forest, Yuya hears a cry and spots a puppy under attack by a hulking orc. The dog, glowing with dark energy, is helpless. Yuya freezes as he scans the orc, a level 600 orc king with over 20,000 attack. Yeah, nope, he thinks, ready to walk away. But when the orc starts stomping the puppy, Yuya's conscience kicks in. What would Grandpa do? He wonders before deciding to distract the orc. He charges in, expecting a tough fight. Instead, a single strike fells the beast. Embarrassment creeps in. How did he psych himself up for that? He recalls the ogre he defeated at level 1 and grows suspicious of the sage's gear. Turning to the dog, he approaches cautiously. It growls, still wary despite its rescue. Yuya just sighs, another day, another adventure. Yuya offers the injured puppy a potion, but promptly passes out. Panicking, he tends to its wounds, and soon, the little guy warms up to him. After a bit of awkward one-sided chatter, Yuya realizes the pup is alone in the world. He offers to take it in, and to his surprise, it happily agrees. Suddenly, Yuya gains the taming skill. Just like that, he has a new companion. Checking its stats, he discovers the puppy is actually a level 500 black Fenrir. Shocked but impressed, he names it Knight, inspired by its sleek black fur. Knight, clearly loving the name, pounces on him with joy. Back at the house, Yuya inspects the loot from the Orc King. Among the treasures are an S-rank magic stone, some monstrous gear that's useless to humans, but could be reforged, and a rare brush that stimulates hair growth. Naturally, Yuya uses the brush on Knight, who enjoys the pampering. Curious, Yuya checks his own stats. Level 235. He's baffled. Defeating a level 600 monster didn't level him up. Shrugging it off, he figures the system must have quirks he'll figure out later. In the real world, Yuya leaves Knight at home and heads to school. During lunch, he casually asks his friends about local pet shops, revealing he just adopted a dog. Keith immediately lights up, begging to see pictures. Yuya stammers, admitting he doesn't have any, because he doesn't even own a smartphone. His friends find this bizarre, but Yuya just shrugs. They suggest a nearby pet shop but can't tag along. Keith eagerly offers to help, and Yuya, oblivious to her excitement, thanks her. Keith internally wonders if this could count as a date but brushes it off. After school, Yuya returns home with supplies Keith helped him pick. He gifts Knight a shiny new collar and decides they should test it out with a walk. At the park, heads turn. Yuya looks effortlessly cool, and Knight's sheer adorableness wins over everyone. They bump into Kaori, who immediately kneels to pet Knight, gushing over his cuteness. Onlookers murmur about how Yuya and Kaori look like a perfect couple. Kaori asks about Knight's breed, and Yuya awkwardly dodges the truth. Fenrir might raise eyebrows. Kaori, oblivious, marvels at how smart and happy Knight seems. Just then, a familiar voice calls out, "It's Miyu, the model Yuya worked with." She greets him warmly, introducing herself to Kaori. The crowd buzzes as they recognize Miyu, and the trio quickly becomes the center of attention. Miyu, sensing the growing commotion, gracefully excuses herself but promises to meet again. After she leaves, Kaori raises the million-dollar question, "Is she your girlfriend?" Yuya, flustered, denies it. He insists they barely know each other and adds, self-deprecatingly, that someone like her would never date him. Kaori frowns, clearly disagreeing. Suddenly, a woman's scream pierces the air. A man bolts past, clutching her purse. Kaori freezes, unsure what to do, but Yuya calmly instructs Knight, "Go." Knight takes off like a missile. Meanwhile, Yuya checks on the woman, reassuring her. Moments later, Knight returns, the thief in tow, dragging him by the collar. Yuya asks Kaori to call the police, but the thief breaks free, lunging at her in desperation. Yuya steps in, disarming and pinning the man effortlessly. Kaori, grateful yet again, thanks him for saving her, and they hand the thief over to the police. The next day, he and Knight delve deeper into the dark forest. Monsters abound, but with their teamwork, nothing stand a chance. They encounter another Orc King, but this time, Knight takes the spotlight, leaping for its neck and taking it down solo. Yuya's impressed, but the forest isn't done with surprises yet. Soon they stumble upon a crystal deer, a stunning level 630 beast radiating magic power. Yuya, invisible, watches in awe, plotting his approach. But before he can act, the deer somehow senses him and charges. Well, so much for sneaky plans, Yuya mutters as he and Knight split up. Knight darts in to attack, but the deer counters with explosive magic, sending shockwaves through the clearing. It follows up with a water blast aimed at Yuya, but he dodges, barely staying ahead. Realizing they need a strategy, Yuya shouts for Knight to create an opening. Knight zips around a deer, dodging magic left and right. The forest erupts in sparks and debris, but Knight lands a critical hit. Yuya seizes the moment, finishing the fight with precision. As the dust settles, he checks the loot and finds a portable bath set. Yuya examines the magical box, marveling at its features, self-cleaning, privacy shields, and adjustable settings. This is absurdly fancy, he chuckles, deciding to save it for later. Returning home, he sets it up and enjoys a luxurious bath, complete with Knight lounging nearby. The next day brings another challenge, a needle roller famed for its speed. The monster barrels toward Yuya, who struggles at first, barely dodging its relentless charges. But soon, he predicts its moves, forcing it to crash into a wall. With the monster stuck, Yuya finishes it off. Finally, he levels up to 240, and Knight hits 510. But there's more. A crack forms where the needle roller struck, revealing a hidden cave. Intrigued, they step inside. The air is eerily still as Yuya scans for enemies but finds none. Deeper in, the cave glows, revealing a larger chamber and a chilling sight. A body lies on the ground. Yuya freezes, but Knight nudges him toward a book nearby. Picking it up, Yuya realizes it's the Book of the Sage. As he flips through, he learns the sage was a legend, a master of all skills who became godlike in power. Even the gods invited him to join their ranks, but he declined. Then, the book begins to speak. It warns Yuya that as he grows stronger, people may fear him. Yuya feels a pang of doubt. How can he avoid that? The sage's voice echoes in response. Find those you trust. The sage offers Yuya a rare chance to ask anything. Without hesitation, Yuya requests to learn magic. The book fills with the sage's vast knowledge, but there's a catch. Yuya, being from another world, lacks the magical circuits needed to wield magic. The sage, however, isn't done helping. With a wave of ethereal generosity, he transfers his own magical circuits to Yuya. Find happiness.
Yuya finally made it home and without wasting time, cracked open the sage's magic book. Step 1. Sense the magic energy around him. Step 2. Manipulate it. Turns out, all he had to do was gather magic in his hand and imagine the spell he wanted. Easy, right? Eager to test it out, Yuya stepped outside. His target? A random tree. His spell of choice? A water ball. With Knight watching curiously, Yuya conjured up the spell and launched it. The water ball blasted through the tree like a cannonball. Meanwhile, back in the royal capital, Owen delivered his report to the king. Everything was going smoothly until he casually mentioned the princess proposing to Yuya. The king? Absolutely fuming. Clearly, in his mind, Yuya must have charmed his daughter with dark sorcery, or worse, charisma. Back at school, Yuya zoned out thinking about the sage's ominous warnings about magic. Apparently, his spells were so advanced, they weren't even common in the other world. Before his mind could spiral further, the teacher announced an upcoming camping trip and sorted everyone into groups. Yuya was paired with Keed, Akira, and a girl named Rin. Keed was buzzing with excitement, but Yuya sheepishly admitted he didn't own any camping gear. Naturally, Keed suggested a shopping trip. They hit the mall, where Shingo was floored to see Kaori tagging along. Ryo was equally stunned. After all, Kaori, being the director's daughter, was basically untouchable. But she brushed off their hesitation and told him to treat her like any other student. Inside, they helped Yuya pick out a sturdy backpack. The day turned into an impromptu hangout session, and soon they found themselves at an arcade. Shingo's eyes lit up at a crane game, featuring his favorite character. Problem: he sucked at it. Yuya, however, had a secret weapon, his detect weakness skill. One precise grab later, Shingo's prize was secured. Keed asked for a cat plushie, and Yuya effortlessly won that too. In fact, he ended up snagging prizes for everyone. Kaori, holding her gift, admitted it was her first time at an arcade and thanked him shyly. The girls decided to check out some clothes, leaving the guys to grab drinks at a nearby cafe. As Yuya sipped his drink, he reflected on how rare it felt to just enjoy time with friends. But then alarms blared. A fire had broken out, and they needed to evacuate. Panic set in as Yuya realized the girls were likely closer to the fire. At the stairwell, a man confirmed they were still upstairs. Rio got a call from Ki. They were trapped. Without hesitation, Yuya bolted up the stairs, the heat intensifying with every step. The sprinklers were barely holding back the blaze. Realizing there was no other option, Yuya coated himself in a layer of water magic and sprinted straight through the flames. Through the thick smoke, he spotted the girls, unconscious. With no time to waste, Yuya pushed forward, the roaring fire reflecting in his determined eyes. Yuya reached the girls just in time, his chest heaving as he scanned the smoke-filled room. Anyone else left? Activating his detection skill, he confirmed. They were the last ones. But the fire roared louder, flames creeping closer. Wrapping the girls in a protective bubble of water magic, Yuya knew they didn't have much time. Outside, Rio and Shingo stood with the police, shouting, "Our friends are still in there." But with the fire raging, the officers couldn't do anything yet. Back inside, Yuya dashed towards the exit, but a section of the roof came crashing down. He barely dodged in time, only to see Kaori's arcade gift slip from her hand. Ahead was a dead end, no doors, no escape. But hey, when life doesn't give you doors, you make one. Yuya channeled his magic and blasted through the wall. The entire building shuddered as debris rained down, but somehow he made it out, carrying the girls to safety. Paramedics took over immediately, and a firefighter chewed Yuya out for his recklessness. But before Yuya could even respond, Kaori's father arrived, thanking him again for saving his daughter. Yuya handed back the little otter pin Kaori had dropped, and as she hugged her dad, Yuya quietly watched, wondering what it felt like to have a family like that. But when he got home, Night practically tackled him, tail wagging furiously. And just like that, Yuya realized he did have family. Later, Yuya experimented with his magic again. What if I could use this to travel? Focusing hard, he pictured his destination, and a portal shimmered into existence. He stepped through and found himself in the depths of the dark forest. It worked, but there was a catch. He could only teleport to places he'd already visited. Still, it was good enough to pop home and feed Night, even during the school trip. Deciding to explore, they stumbled upon a cave, and in typical RPG fashion, it was full of goblins. With his legendary sword in hand and Night by his side, Yuya cut through them effortlessly. The cave was a treasure trove of rare items, and with his storage skill, he packed them all up. Teamwork makes the dream work, he thought as he high-fived Night. As they emerged from the cave, Yuya decided to call it a day, but Night had other ideas. The wolf's ears twitched, and in a flash, he bolted off. Yuya followed, activating his invisibility skill to stay stealthy. Up ahead, they found a girl, injured, cornered by goblins and wielding threads. Her precision was incredible as she sliced through one of the elite goblins' arms, but she was outnumbered. The goblins lunged, and though she held him off, the elite goblin landed a devastating blow, knocking her down. Yuya hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. With Night at his side, they charged in and took down the goblins. But then the ground trembled. More goblins emerged from the shadows, dozens of them. Time to bring out the big guns. Yuya summoned his divine whip, a glowing ethereal weapon that lashed out, binding and crushing every goblin in a single devastating sweep. Silence fell over the clearing. As the dust settled, Yuya glanced back at the unconscious girl. What to do with the unconscious girl he just saved? Taking her home? Yeah, but the darkening sky says absolutely not. Leaving her alone doesn't sit right either. But before he can decide, she stirs awake, realizes she's being carried bridal style, and classic anime timing, flails out of his arms and hits the ground. Smooth. Yuya awkwardly offers her his healing juice. One sip, and bam, all injuries gone. Luna, as we'll soon learn her name is, looks at him like he's some kind of miracle worker and demands, "Who are you?" Cue introductions. Yuya politely introduces himself and Night, his wolf companion. But Night? Yeah, Night's not a fan of Luna and makes it very clear with a low growl. Awkward. Luna explains she was training in the forest when an elite goblin ambushed her. Yuya casually drops the bomb that he took care of those goblins. Luna stares at him, half impressed, half suspicious. When she asks why he's in the forest, Yuya simply says he's training too. For some reason, this surprises her. Luna, still feeling gross from the earlier fight, shyly apologizes for being sweaty and dirty. She asks if there's a river nearby, but Yuya, ever the gentleman, pulls out a portable bath. Luna's jaw hits the metaphorical floor. Bath? In the middle of a forest? Yuya shrugs and explains he got it from a crystal deer. Luna's eyes widen. Defeating such a beast isn't exactly beginner-level stuff. While Luna bathes, Yuya keeps watch outside, the good boy he is. She mutters something about being in the forest on a client's request, but Yuya doesn't quite catch it. Afterward, Luna asks if Yuya will join her in training. It's dangerous out here, and 2 is always better than 1. Yuya hesitates but ultimately agrees. It feels wrong to leave her to fend for herself. Cue training montage. The two spar, learn from each other, and level up their skills. At one point, Luna expertly takes down a goblin with her threads, earning Yuya's admiration. But Luna, ever the determined fighter, insists she still has a long way to go to complete her mission. Eventually, Yuya has to break the news he's leaving soon. Something about a school trip. Luna doesn't quite get it, but she thanks him sincerely for everything. On their final night, Yuya soaks in his portable bath, enjoying a well-earned moment of peace. That peace? Shattered. Luna casually joins him. Yuya panics. What is happening right now? Luna, unfazed, leans close and thanks him deeply for their time together. She says she'll treasure it forever. And then her towel slips. Yuya.exe has stopped working. Cut to the school trip. Yuya, now back with his classmates, is playing cards with his friends. He notices he looks exhausted. Yuya admits he didn't get much sleep the night before. Despite his fatigue, he somehow wins 5 games in a row. His friends stare at him, dumbfounded. Yuya shrugs. Isn't it just luck? Yeah, sure. Yuya decided a quick nap was in order. After all, he was pretty sure his insane winning streak was thanks to maxing out his luck stat. Honestly, even that weird encounter with Luna felt like pure luck. But before he could drift too far into dreamland, the bus jolted, and their destination loomed into view. Q. Wilderness Survival Mode. Their teacher, Sawada, gathered the students and laid down the rules. 2 days, no help. Just raw survival instincts. There were fish in the river and edible plants in the forest. Probably. Keed, ever the worrier, raised the valid point that some plants might be, poisonous. Sawada shrugged it off. Don't worry, the school doctor's nearby. Oh, cool. Except, the doctor was notoriously creepy. Rumors of distant screams echoing from her office didn't exactly inspire confidence. Akira, ever the lazy optimist, suggested they just starve for 2 days. Sawada, in full teacher mode, shut that idea down. Apparently, it was a competition between classes. And the stakes? Sawada's bonus. Yeah, real inspiring teach. Once left in the forest, Yuya scratched his head. So, what now? Akira puffed up. Easy. We survived. Cute deadpan stares from the rest of the group. Rin rolled her eyes and suggested splitting up. Yuya and Keed would fish, while she and Akira hunted for plants. Down by the river, the duo realized they'd been too slow. The good fishing spots were already claimed. Rio, standing smugly by the water, warned them they were out of luck. Keed sighed. Should we try something else? But Yuya, armed with his detection skill, zeroed in on a hidden spot teeming with fish. Unfortunately, the water was shallow, and their fishing pole wasn't going to cut it. Yuya grinned. Plan B, manual mode activated. Rolling up his sleeves, he stepped into the water. Compared to dodging monsters in the dark forest, fish seemed like sluggish little noodles. Channeling everything he learned from Luna about reading movement patterns, Yuya snatched a fish with his bare hand. He gawked. You're kidding me. But Yuya wasn't done. One by one, he grabbed fish after fish like some aquatic ninja. Other students stopped to stare. He'd finally cut him off. Okay, I think we have enough fish now. Yuya laughed awkwardly, realizing he might have gotten a bit carried away. As he packed up their ridiculous haul, his thoughts drifted to Luna. He'd have to thank her for the tips. Speaking of Luna, in the shadowy backstreets of a distant town, Luna stood in a puppet shop. With a flick of her threads, marionettes' heads dropped one by one. Her skill had sharpened, deadly precision. But as she worked, her mind wandered. Yuya, that oddball who treated her differently. For a fleeting moment, she wondered what her life might have been like if she'd met him sooner. But such thoughts were pointless. She was Luna the headhunter, and her next target awaited. Back at the river, Yuya and Keed regrouped with Rin, who nearly dropped her basket of plants at the sight of their mountain of fish. You caught all these with your hands? Yuya nodded sheepishly. But where was Akira? A groan from nearby answered the question. Akira was sprawled dramatically on the ground, muttering about being used as a mushroom taste tester and a bear decoy. Yuya quickly scanned Akira's stats, relieved to find no poison effects ticking away. Rin proudly displayed their haul of edible plants, and Yuya, ever the supportive teammate, praised their efforts. He even used one of his skills to weed out a few questionable mushrooms. The group sat together, their spoils spread before them. The group headed to the building to present their haul, joining the line of students getting their food checked for anything poisonous. As Yuya waited, he ran into Kaori, who casually asked how his team was doing. They chatted briefly about their survival experience before her team called her away. Akira, watching the interaction, couldn't help but feel envious of Yuya's effortless connection with her, wishing he could be more like him. When their turn arrived, Sawada inspected their collection and was genuinely impressed. It was the largest and safest haul she'd seen so far. Her excitement wasn't subtle as she openly admitted her bonus was on the line. However, she reminded them that cooking would also be part of their evaluation and asked who'd be handling it. Without hesitation, everyone pointed at Yuya. Sawada cheered him on, her focus on her bonus glaringly obvious, and Yuya couldn't help but feel she was being a little too honest about her priorities. Drawing on his experience cooking both alone and in the other world, Yuya prepared an impressive meal that looked professional. When the food was ready, the team eagerly dug in, while Yuya anxiously waited to see their reactions. Before he could gauge anything, Sawada appeared after some teacher drinks and casually joined in. After a few bites, she was stunned, claiming his cooking was even better than the meals prepared by the school's first-rate chefs. Yuya, who had always cooked for himself out of necessity, felt a quiet sense of happiness seeing everyone genuinely enjoying his food. Sawada, however, took things a step further. After finishing her meal, she bluntly proposed marriage. Everyone froze as she explained her reasoning, her inability to cook or clean due to being focused on research and her complete lack of relationship experience. In her eyes, Yuya was the perfect catch, and she was serious about waiting for him. The others quickly jumped in, trying to talk her out of it. Keed flat out declared it was a bad idea, leaving Yuya internally questioning whether he was somehow a failure as a person. Sawada remained determined, even promising to wait for him if necessary. Yuya awkwardly responded, saying he thought she was a good teacher, which only made her happier. She pulled him into an overly affectionate hug, much to Keed's horror as she desperately tried to pry them apart. Akira, on the other hand, could only sit back in awe, convinced Yuya was the luckiest guy alive. Later that night, Yuya teleported home to check on Knight. He quickly prepared a meal for his furry companion, using supplies from his storage. Watching Knight eat happily, Yuya realized how much he enjoyed making others happy with his cooking. Once Knight was taken care of, Yuya teleported back to camp, directly into a group shower scene. Silence fell instantly as everyone turned to stare at him. Akira broke the awkward tension by pointing out how ridiculously well-built Yuya was, almost comically so. Yuya, still clueless, wondered what was so strange about his body, while Akira marveled at how someone could be both insanely ripped and effortlessly good-looking. In the girls' bathroom, Rin playfully teased Keed, suggesting that all the boys must be crushing on her. Their conversation shifted when they bumped into Kaori, and the topic turned to Sawada's outrageous marriage proposal to Yuya. Kaori was visibly shocked, and the girls couldn't help but note that Sawada might have a certain advantage. Inspired by the thought, Keed seemed determined to make her own move on Yuya. Kaori briefly wondered if she had feelings for Yuya herself, but quickly dismissed the idea, though Rin wasn't buying it, pointing out how obvious she was being. Kaori, on the other hand, started wondering what kind of girls Yuya might actually like. The next morning, chaos greeted the camp as some students discovered their belongings trashed. Panic rippled through the group as they speculated about a thief. Akira wore a look of sheer dread while Yuya calmly checked their supplies, relieved to find their belongings intact. The group decided to search for breakfast, but Akira froze when he noticed deep scratch marks on a tree. Yuya recalled Akira's earlier story about being used as bear bait and immediately realized what was happening. Moments later, the bear appeared, right in front of the girls. Screaming erupted as the bear charged, sending everyone into a frenzy. Sawada frantically signaled for the students to take cover, but in the chaos, she tripped and fell. The bear lunged at her, but Yuya leaped in just in time, wrestling the massive creature to the ground and knocking it out with sheer strength. Sawada, still shaken, admitted she'd normally scold him for doing something so reckless, but since he'd saved her life, she let it slide. She even repeated her marriage proposal, which Yuya politely but firmly declined. As the dust settled, Yuya wondered what would happen to the bear. Kaori explained they'd keep it as a guard bear, and if it misbehaved again, it would simply become dinner. The bear, oddly enough, seemed to understand the terms, and with that, the camping trip concluded peacefully. Back at his house, Yuya prepared for an upcoming meeting with the king in the other world. Lexia's party was on their way to escort him when Yuya spotted a group of demons in the forest. Realizing it would be dangerous if Lexia's party encountered them, he decided to deal with the threat himself. Knight lunged at one of the demons while Yuya hurled his spear, only for the demon to catch it. Without missing a beat, Yuya switched to a massive hammer, obliterating the demon and leaving a crater in the ground. Impressed by the sage's weapons yet again, Yuya examined the demon's dropped helmet and decided to try it on. Unbeknownst to him, a strange rabbit-like creature was watching from the shadows, whispering about Yuya being the one. Soon after, Lexia's group arrived, and Owen froze when he saw Yuya wearing the helmet. Sensing their unease, Yuya quickly removed it, and everyone visibly relaxed. They formally invited him to the palace, but just as things settled, Knight suddenly tackled Lexia to the ground. A tree came crashing down, and Yuya instantly slashed it in half. He spotted the familiar threads used by Luna and realized Knight had just saved the princess. Owen demanded an explanation, but Yuya was already in pursuit. Meanwhile, Luna cursed herself for failing her mission. Before she could escape, Yuya struck, knocking her out cold. Oh. Yuya is surprised that it's really Luna, and Lexia joins him, wondering who she is. He tells her Luna was the one who tried to attack her, and he realizes Knight knew all along. Yuya asks to heal her wounds and take her back to his house so he can ask her what is going on, not wanting to believe she is a bad person. Lexia grants his request as Owen comes rushing over, telling her not to run off on her own, but she tells him she is going to pay a visit to Yuya's house. Yuya wonders if she is sure, and Lexia says she is also curious about why she was attacked and about the relationship he has with her. So Yuya decides to use his teleportation to get back faster, and Owen is left behind. Lexia is surprised by the teleportation, and they wait for Luna to wake up. Yuya explains how he met Luna in the forest, and how they even trained together, but Lexia is more interested in a teleportation spell he used to get back to the house. Yuya says he just thought about using magic for transportation and just ended up creating it. Lexia can't believe him and tells him that teleportation magic is regarded as something from a fairy tale, and there has never been anyone who was confirmed to be able to use it. She warns him that if anyone were to find out he can use it, it could even lead to a war, so she makes him promise not to use it in front of people without thinking first. She suddenly calls out Luna, asking her how long she intends to pretend to sleep. Luna gets up, realizing she is busted, and Lexia notes how Yuya also knew she was faking, but he was just being nice and playing along. Lexia asks her about her story, but Luna thinks there is no point and tells her to just kill her, but Yuya asks about her story as well. So Luna explains how she was an orphan that scavenged just to survive, but she was eventually taken in by a man who taught her how to read and write, as well as the ways of assassination, and she eventually joined the Dark Guild. Yuya is curious about the Dark Guild, and Lexia explains they are an organization responsible for orchestrating all kinds of crimes. Luna goes on to say how she has completed countless assassinations and even became known as the Headhunter. Lexia is surprised hearing this, having heard of the name. Yuya wonders if Knight knew all along, and he realizes that that was the reason why he was aggressive toward her in the beginning. Luna reveals her assignment to assassinate Lexia, but now that she has failed, her death is guaranteed because she will either get executed or the Dark Guild will send assassins after her for her failure. Yuya gets worried for her, but Luna wonders why he cares since they only spent a brief time together. But Yuya says that even though their time together was short, it meant a lot to him, so he sees her as a friend. Luna thinks it's already too late for her, but Lexia interrupts, telling her to work for her instead and become her bodyguard. Luna wonders what she is saying, and Lexia explains that since only she and Yuya know about the assassination attempt, they can just keep it a secret, and if she is the princess's guard, it will be harder for the Dark Guild to get to her. Luna thinks she is insane, saying she is a criminal, thinking of all the people she has killed and that her hands are stained with blood. Lexia admired Luna's hands, casually pointing out how soft they were. Luna, a bit flustered, tried to brush it off, but Lexia wasn't having it. She pressed further, wondering aloud about Luna's secret. Reluctantly, Luna admitted it was thanks to Yuya's magical bath. Lexia, ever the opportunist, declared Luna the loser of their earlier fight and, therefore, bound to obey her. Luna, cornered, had no choice but to accept. Meanwhile, chaos brewed elsewhere. Owen and his soldiers were being chased down by relentless goblins. His team, battered and exhausted, was forced to retreat, leaving Lexia's safety entirely in Yuya's hands. Back at camp, Luna couldn't believe how things had spiraled. She muttered under her breath, calling Lexia a tyrant, but Lexia ignored her protests and got right to business. She wanted to hear more about this magical bath. Luna explained that Yuya owned a rare item capable of creating a luxurious bath anywhere, boasting benefits for recovery and even enhancing beauty. Lexia's eyes lit up. "I must try it," she declared, insisting on a bath with Luna. To Yuya's horror, she invited him to join, but he nervously declined. Lexia shrugged, calling it his loss. The girls slipped into the warm bath, sighing with contentment, until Lexia suddenly turned the conversation toward Yuya. "Do you like him?" she asked with a smirk. Luna, caught off guard, denied it, claiming they were just friends. But Lexia wasn't convinced. "You totally like him," she teased. Luna protested, but Lexia, ever the drama queen, announced her plan to marry Yuya. This sparked a heated argument, with Luna objecting furiously. Lexia, amused, pointed out that Luna's denial didn't exactly match her reaction. Then, with a grin, Lexia raised the stakes. "Fine, it's war. We'll compete for Yuya's heart, and I'll win." Luna, though flustered, found herself agreeing, unwilling to back down at the thought of losing Yuya. Lexia decided Luna would now serve as both her guard and her rival. After the bath, Yuya suggested making dinner. Lexia volunteered but turned the kitchen into a disaster zone in record time, nearly injuring herself over a single potato. Exasperated, Yuya took over, whipping up a meal that earned rave reviews from both girls. But dinner came with drama. Luna, still recovering from her wounds, coyly asked Yuya to feed her. He hesitated, reflecting on how hard he'd hit her earlier, and obliged. She smirked at Lexia as she ate, clearly enjoying the attention. Lexia wasn't about to be upstaged, though. She demanded the same treatment, pulling the princess card when Yuya protested. Defeated, he fed her too, all while inwardly sighing. That night, the girls shared a room, leaving Yuya exhausted yet oddly content. By morning, they reunited with Owen and his men. Yuya apologized for leaving them behind, but the chaos of the past day still lingered in the air. Owen glanced around, curious about their companions. Yuya reintroduced Knight, and Owen thanked him for saving Lexia the previous day. His attention shifted to Luna. "Who's she?" he asked. Lexia wasted no time. "Oh, she's an assassin who tried to kill me. But now she's my guard." The group froze. Luna stared, horrified at how casually her secret was spilled. Owen instantly ordered his men to surround her, but Lexia waved them off. "Relax. We slept together, and if she wanted me dead, I'd already be dead." Owen reluctantly agreed but warned they'd keep a close eye on her. Before things could escalate further, Yuya broke in, announcing he couldn't join them at the palace. He needed to get back to school after their unexpected delay. Owen nodded, advising Yuya to follow the road to a nearby village for directions to the capital. Lexia said her goodbyes, insisting he visit soon. But before he could leave, Luna ran up, kissed him, and thanked him for everything. Lexia was outraged, demanding to turn back for her own kiss, but Owen ignored her and kept moving. Yuya meanwhile stood there stunned, replaying the kiss in his mind before deciding a bath would help him relax. Mid-bath, a strange creature appeared. A notification popped up, informing Yuya he had just tamed it. The creature, slightly confused but accepting, introduced itself. Yuya checked its stats using his upgraded appraisal skill, and discovered it had a powerful ability called Holy Ground. Curious, Yuya asked the creature to demonstrate, and a radiant field surrounded them, boosting his abilities. Impressed, Yuya named the creature Akatsuki. Knight reminded him of the time, and Yuya quickly rushed to school. During class, their teacher, Sawada, announced a ball game competition with her bonus on the line. The first event was soccer. Divided into two teams, Yuya ended up as goalkeeper, clueless about the rules. As the game started, Rio dominated, scoring effortlessly. Keed gushed over his performance, but Rin smirked. "We have a secret weapon," she said, telling Keed to jump. Keed's jumping distracted every guy on the field, giving Akira an opening to steal the ball and charge forward. Emboldened, Akira bypassed the defenders and took a shot. But Yuya effortlessly blocked it, stunning everyone. Unsure what to do next, he asked Rio, who told him to throw the ball as hard as possible. Yuya obliged, hurling it straight into the opposing goal, much to his own surprise. "Did I just score?" Yuya wondered aloud, leaving everyone speechless. After school, Yuya gets approached by a modeling agency. They're eager to recruit him, but he politely declines, explaining he's happy just being a student. The chief is stunned by his lack of interest, and things get even more surprising when Myo arrives, trying to convince him to join. Yuya's friends are floored. "Wait, you know her?" they ask eyes wide. Yuya shrugs it off, saying they worked together once. Then, as if to prove it, someone pulls out a magazine cover featuring the two of them. The moment is interrupted when a sports competition poster blows by, with Corey chasing after it. The chief suddenly gets an idea. She'll pitch an article on the school with Yuya as the centerpiece. Without waiting for a response, she runs off to seek approval. Meanwhile, in the other world, Yuya is battling a skeleton monster, but feels like he's hit a plateau. Determined to grow stronger, he ventures deeper into the forest, stumbling upon an area filled with unbreakable black trees. While examining the trees, he's ambushed by a massive mithril boar. Yuya barely manages to heal himself before the boar charges again. It seems like he's in real trouble, until the boar is suddenly sent flying by the rabbit. The rabbit introduces himself as Usagi, and Yuya is stunned to discover he can talk. The boar tries to attack again, but Usagi obliterates it in one devastating blow, shattering the surrounding trees in the process. Yuya checks Usagi's stats, and is floored by his overwhelming strength and numerous titles. Grateful, Yuya thanks Usagi, who immediately demands to see Yuya's kick. Yuya hesitantly demonstrates, and Usagi sees potential. Showing off his own kick, Usagi demolishes a line of trees, then announces he'll train it. After some intense practice, Yuya manages to break one of the black trees. Then Usagi takes things up a notch with sparring. During training, Yuya asks why he's being taught. Usagi reveals he's looking for a successor. As a divine kicker, it's his duty to pass on his techniques. He explains that divines are masters of their craft, tasked with protecting the world from vile beings, manifestations of negativity. Yuya isn't thrilled about becoming a divine, but Usagi points out the fight against the vile is unavoidable. Though uncertain, Yuya considers how much he wants to protect Knight and Akatsuki. Usagi, undeterred by Yuya's hesitation, continues training him. In return, he asks Yuya to teach him magic, impressed by the barrier around Yuya's house. Yuya agrees, though he notes the barrier is the sage's work. They strike a deal to exchange skills, and the training intensifies. Later, as a king mithril boar chases Yuya, Usagi grins. Perfect, he says. Time for a rematch. Yuya battles fiercely, combining his kicks and whip to finally take down the beast. Victorious, he's thrilled to discover a haul of SS-ranked items. Usagi, ever the mentor, warns him about even stronger monsters, triple SEX, and a legendary ranked vial. Suddenly, Yuya gets a notification about evolving. He starts glowing, gaining new skills, though his appearance stays the same. The next day, Yuya dives into the table tennis competition. The chief urges him to impress the cameras, but his opponent is none other than the national champion, nicknamed the Sniper. The first serve is brutal, Yuya misses entirely. But after facing that boar, this is child's play. Yuya returns the next serve with such force that the ball creates a hole in the table. Realizing his power is overkill, Yuya forfeits to avoid hurting anyone, leaving the photographers grumbling about his speed. Before he can catch a break, Keed ropes him into a volleyball match to replace an injured teammate. The chief tags along, determined to capture the action. The game begins, but Yuya's spike pops the ball and leaves the court in shambles. The opposing team forfeits on the spot. Once again, the photographers miss the shot, distracted at the worst moment. Keed reassures Yuya that a win is still a win, but the celebration is cut short by a scream. It's Kaori, whose tennis partner is being carried off the court. Taking his place, Yuya faces Kaori's serve, only to realize she's the one who injured her teammate. Her wild serves are all over the place, and at one point, she even launches her racket. Yuya steps up, managing the game solo while keeping Kaori out of harm's way. She nearly falls but is caught by Yuya, giving the chief her long-awaited photo. As the day winds down, Kaori walks home with Yuya, thanking him for his help. She offers to treat him to food, but Yuya insists her company is enough. Touched, Kaori surprises him with a kiss. Meanwhile, Usagi faces off against one of the Vile. Using magic, he holds his ground, surprising the Vile girl since rabbits aren't supposed to wield such power. Usagi credits Yuya for teaching him, which prompts the girl to shift her focus. Deciding Yuya is the real threat, she leaves to hunt him down. Back at the agency, the chief reviews photos of Yuya for their next magazine. She's ecstatic, predicting huge sales. Her assistant, however, worries that these photos will attract even more agencies to fight over Yuya. The chief doesn't seem fazed by Yuya's refusal, and clearly has something up her sleeve to reel him into the agency. Meanwhile, at Yuya's house, he and Kaori are studying together. Yuya thanks her for helping him with math, but Kaori waves it off, reminding him he's been helping her with English. Yuya, of course, mentally credits his handy language comprehension skill for making English a breeze. In a flashback, we see the two walking home, discussing their upcoming exams. Yuya confesses he's nervous, surprising Kaori, who can't believe there's something he's not good at. She was the one who suggested they study together. At his house, Kaori meets Knight and Akatsuki for the first time, instantly enchanted by the adorable duo snoozing away. Excusing herself to find a restroom, Kaori wanders off, and Yuya wonders aloud if she'll manage on her own. She doesn't, ending up in front of the door. When Yuya finds her, she admits she felt drawn to it, making him visibly nervous. Reluctantly, he explains the door leads to another world and even lets her test it by touching it. Her hand stops against a barrier, and he explains that only people he allows can pass through. Curious, Kaori asks what this other world is like. Yuya gives her a glimpse, demonstrating his magic. She's blown away, and Yuya explains how this other world granted him the skills to deal with the school delinquents and save lives during the department store fire. Kaori is awestruck but still skeptical, until Yuya offers to take her across. Holding her hand, they step into the other world. Kaori is stunned by its beauty and learns that Knight and Akatsuki are from here. Yuya explains that Knight is a Fenrir, like a mythical wolf, and Akatsuki is sort of like a pig. Akatsuki grunts indignantly, making Kaori laugh. Suddenly, Kaori's status window pops up. Yuya explains that this world measures abilities through stats. To his surprise, her starting stats are leagues ahead of his when he first arrived. Embarrassed, Yuya recalls how leveling up drastically changed his appearance, and admits he feels like a cheat, wondering if anyone would have accepted him otherwise. Kaori quickly shifts the topic, asking to see more of this fantastical world. Yuya hesitates, warning her it's dangerous beyond his home's barrier, but agrees to take her exploring another time. She makes him seal the promise with a pinky swear, and he asks her to keep his secret. The gesture makes her feel special, deepening their bond as Yuya's otherworldly life becomes part of her own. In the capital, Lexia returns to the palace, and her father, the king, immediately notices Yuya isn't with her. Owen explains there was a change of plans, but the king quickly guesses it involves Luna. Without hesitation, Luna admits she tried to assassinate Lexia. Furious, the king draws his sword, ready to execute her on the spot. He lunges, but stops mid-swing, impressed by Luna's quick thinking. She'd anticipated his sword's power to cut through anything and neutralized it by holding his arms instead. Lexia, furious at her father, defends Luna and declares she'll hate him if he harms her. The king, shaken by his daughter's words, reluctantly backs down and officially names Luna as one of Lexia's guards. Turning to Owen, the king demands more details about Luna. Owen explains she was once the infamous headhunter of the Dark Guild. The conversation shifts to Yuya, and when the king learns Yuya hosted both Lexia and Luna at his house, he spirals into a jealous frenzy, threatening to cut Yuya down. Owen insists nothing happened, but the king isn't buying it. Meanwhile, the masked man who once tried to kill Lexia is revealed to be Prince Rieger. His subordinate updates him on recent events. A noble had hired Luna to assassinate Lexia, but Yuya foiled the plot, and now Luna is Lexia's guard. Hearing about Yuya's upcoming visit to the palace, Rieger forms a plan. He equips his subordinate with a magic sealing barrier that disables all magic within its range, aiming to make the king's guards powerless. If the plan fails, he'll frame Yuya. Elsewhere, Yuya enjoys a rare day off after the academy's competition. During some farming, he defeats a sheep monster and collects a rare betting item that promises the ultimate sleeping experience. Later, he heads into town, marveling at the sight of cat girls in this world. At the guild, Yuya seeks to trade for money, as he has none in this world. The guildmaster finds Yuya's name odd and assumes, based on his appearance, that he must be a noble. Yuya insists he's just a regular guy, but the master isn't convinced. When Yuya reveals his item box skill, the master is blown away. He examines the peppers Yuya offers and declares them the best he's ever seen, though Yuya insists they're just average ones from his garden. The master offers 100 gold coins for the lot, leaving Yuya bewildered about whether that's a lot of money in this kingdom. The guildmaster explains that 5 gold coins could sustain an average family for a year, so Yuya's 100 gold haul is enough to keep a family comfortable for 20 years. Yuya is floored. The master also gives him a guild card for identification, and Yuya asks for directions to the capital. He's pointed to the stagecoach, and soon enough, Yuya finds himself in a bustling city, overwhelmed by the sheer number of people. Akatsuki eagerly points out the palace, but Yuya starts to feel out of place. He eventually reaches the palace and is greeted by Owen, who immediately escorts him to meet the king. Yuya, panicked, worries he's not ready for such an audience, but Owen reassures him it's just an informal meeting. Inside, Lexia and Luna are waiting. Yuya respectfully greets the king, who wastes no time bringing up Lexia's proposal. The king accuses Yuya of seducing his daughter, and nearly loses his temper before Owen calms him down. Things get worse when the king points out that Yuya didn't bring a gift for Lexia. Scrambling, Yuya pulls out the betting set he got from the sheep monster. Lexia is delighted, but the gift enrages the king, who accuses Yuya of making a move on Lexia right in front of him. Owen tries to explain that Yuya doesn't know their customs, and Lexia reveals the issue. Giving betting as a gift signifies a marriage proposal. Yuya panics, realizing his mistake, but before the king can act, assassins attack. The king's guards retaliate, but a magic sealing barrier nullifies their arrows. The assassins press forward, but Yuya and Knight make quick work of them, taking them all down with ease. Lexia clings to Yuya, showering him with praise, while Luna, visibly jealous, tries to pry her away. The king, still glaring at Yuya, is less than thrilled. Owen inspects an emblem on one of the assassins and realizes the attack was orchestrated by the first prince, Rieger. The incident leaves the king shaken, and he isolates himself in his chambers. Meanwhile, Owen asks Yuya to help protect Lexia. Yuya hesitantly approaches her room, but Lexia steps out and suggests they explore the capital together since it's Yuya's first visit. Luna objects, reminding her the danger, but Lexia argues that if her brother sends more assassins, it'll expose his location. Luna reluctantly agrees but insists Lexia stay in the castle while she shows Yuya around. Lexia flatly refuses, not wanting to leave them alone together. Owen offers to take Yuya on a tour instead, but both girls shoot him down. In the end, the group ventures out together, with Owen trailing behind, shaking his head at the chaos. Lexia insists on showing Yuya the jewelers, but Luna has her own ideas, sparking a tug-of-war over him. Their bickering attracts a crowd, and bystanders start whispering about the nobleman, flanked by two stunning women. Yuya, caught in the middle, just wants to explore the city in peace. As they wander, Yuya's interest is piqued by the Adventurers Guild. He casually mentions registering with the Merchants Guild earlier, prompting Luna to suggest he sign up here too. She points out that since he hunts so often, it'd make trading monster materials easier, and he could earn extra gold with quests. Luna, of course, decides to join too, eager to team up with Yuya. Lexia isn't thrilled, but Luna playfully suggests she register as well. Lexia grumbles about Yuya spending time with Luna, but Luna reassures her with a smirk that he'll probably be too busy for quests anyway. Inside the guild, they meet Amelia, the clerk, who hands him application forms. Yuya starts filling his out but hesitates at the magic section. Remembering the sage's advice about their world's limited knowledge of magic, he decides to downplay his abilities. Instead of listing everything, he writes down only wind, fire, and water magic. Next, they measure magic power. Amelia explains they use a crystal ball because most adventurers keep their stats private. Luna goes first, and the ball glows yellow. She shrugs, admitting magic was never her strong suit. Then it's Yuya's turn. As he places his hand on the crystal, it shatters. Everyone stares in stunned silence. Amelia, thinking it's a fluke, tries again with a new crystal, same result. Yuya awkwardly apologizes, asking if he'll need to pay for the damage, but Amelia waves it off, clearly more shaken than annoyed. When she reads Yuya's application, her jaw drops. 3 types of magic, she blurts out. Yuya, confused, asks if something's wrong. Amelia explains that using 3 different types of magic is legendary, the stuff of fairy tales. Lexia beams with pride, while Yuya silently thanks himself for not listing all his magic skills. Their applications are processed, and they receive their guild cards. Amelia explains they're starting as F-ranked adventurers, free to take quests at their own pace. She warns them to avoid over-harvesting plants on gathering quests, as it could disrupt regrowth. They check out the quest board, debating where to start. But before they can pick, a mysterious woman named Glinda approaches Yuya, her sharp gaze locking onto him. A woman named Glinda approaches Yuya, clearly intrigued by a shattered crystal display, and boldly asks to team up. But Lexia and Luna are quick to intervene, dragging her away while muttering about her drinking habits. Glinda leaves with a sly grin, promising to meet Yuya again. Lexia suddenly decides joining the guild is essential to protect Yuya from other women. Luna smirks, reminding her about poor Owen, who already struggles to manage her antics. Their first quest is simple: gather herbs. Yuya's discernment skill turns out to be a lifesaver, giving him precise harvesting tips. Luna struggles to avoid damaging roots, while Lexia breathes a sigh of relief, happy for a break from palace life. She proposes a competition. Whoever gathers the most valuable herbs wins a full day alone with Yuya. Luna accepts instantly, but Owen steps in, warning them not to overharvest. The girls dart off, leaving Yuya alone with Akatsuki. While searching, Yuya finds a rare mana-healing herb, but Akatsuki proudly presents a poisonous one instead. The girls eventually return, eager to show off their findings, but the mood shifts when Owen rushes in with urgent news. The first prince's location has been discovered. With Lexia and Luna sent back to the castle, Yuya and Owen race to an abandoned house. The scene is eerily quiet, but the tension snaps when a knife suddenly strikes one of their soldiers. Inside, they find the prince holding a guard hostage. Yuya sends Knight to disarm him, rescuing the guard, and Owen corners the prince, urging him to surrender. Desperate, the prince turns the blade on himself, declaring his life worthless. Owen hesitates, unsure how to handle it, but Yuya steps in and swiftly disarms him, knocking him down. Just as they prepare to take the prince into custody, a deafening explosion rocks the house, blowing the walls apart. From the smoke emerges a mysterious girl, whom the prince greets with relief. But her cold analysis of the situation sends chills through the air. She declares the prince a failure and no longer necessary. Shocked, he pleads for answers, only to learn she had never intended to make him king. Her true goal was chaos, to incite wars and massacre as many people as possible. Betrayed and broken, the prince barely reacts as she prepares to kill him. Owen tries to intervene but is stopped by an arrow. Yuya scans for the source, but the girl unleashes a relentless barrage of arrows, her movements impossibly precise as she predicts every counter. The girl reveals her ultimate goal, the extermination of humanity. The knights struggle under the hail of arrows, their defenses crumbling, but just as hope dims, Yuya steps in, sweeping the arrows away with a powerful gust of magic. Owen thanks him, relief flooding his face, but the girl's icy gaze locks onto Yuya. A chilling realization crosses her face. "So, you're Yuya," she says, her voice laced with malice. The mysterious girl eyes Yuya, clearly eager to fight, but she admits her energy is drained. With a menacing promise to return, she retreats. leaving Yuya puzzled about her identity. Meanwhile, Prince Rieger is captured and brought before the king. When the guards strip off his mask and clothes, his scarred body shocks everyone. Lexia struggles to look at him, guilt written all over her face. It turns out she's the reason for his condition. Her magic once spiraled out of control, and Rieger bore the brunt of it. Soaked in her magical energy, he became consumed by destruction, his only relief being self-inflicted injuries. Isolated and rejected by the king, he spiraled into madness. Rieger blames his father for abandoning him and begs for death to end his suffering. As the room sits in stunned silence, Yuya steps forward. With calm determination, he offers his healing juice. Rieger resists at first, but the results are miraculous. His scars vanish completely. The room erupts in shock as Rieger examines his healed reflection, unable to believe his eyes. Yuya casually explains the juice comes from a legendary herb, the cure-all herb, which he just happens to grow in his garden. The king is floored, thanking Yuya profusely. But Rieger's relief is short-lived. He laughs bitterly, knowing he still faces a death sentence. Lexia, however, refuses to let her brother be executed. She insists on pardoning him, despite his attempts on her life. The king hesitates but eventually agrees, granting Rieger a second chance. With the drama settled, the king shifts to Yuya's reward. Lexia boldly suggests marrying him, and Luna, not to be outdone, offers herself as well. The king, ignoring the chaos, grants Yuya the title of Lord Knight, complete with land and a mansion. Later, back in his room, Yuya collapses into bed, only to be haunted by a dream of battling the mysterious girl and losing. He jolts awake, shaken. At school the next day, his friends invite him to hang out, but he brushes them off, even running past Kaori without a glance. All he can think about is preparing for their next encounter. Determined, Yuya returns to the other world and throws himself into intense training. Knight senses something, and suddenly they're under attack. The girl reappears, her intentions clear: revenge. She accuses Yuya of being a threat to her plans, launching an all-out assault. Meanwhile, back in Yuya's world, Kaori decides to visit his house to study. Finding the door open, she steps inside and accidentally stumbles into the other world. As she wanders, the sound of explosions draws her attention, heart racing as she searches for Yuya. Yuya barely has time to react when the girl launches a barrage of arrows at him. But instead of backing down, he charges straight at her with Knight by his side. In a swift move, Yuya lands a solid kick, and Knight follows up with a strike of his own. The girl, visibly impressed by his skill, quickly decides he's too dangerous to let grow stronger. She unleashes another wave of arrows, forcing Yuya to stay on his toes. That's when he spots Kaori nearby, and his stomach drops. Kaori panics as the fight rages, and Yuya instinctively moves to shield her just as an explosion rocks the area. The girl, now fully intent on finishing him off, readies her strongest attack. But before she can fire, Usagi makes a dramatic entrance, blocking her move at the last second. With a sheepish grin, he apologizes for his tardiness, explaining he'd been busy digging up information. He reveals the girl's name is Yuri, and that she's the divine archer's disciple. As Yuri glares at them, she admits her master was betrayed and killed by the humans he once protected. Now she's out for revenge. Her words drip with bitterness as she accuses Usagi of being a useless divine who only shows up when it's too late. Usagi counters firmly, reminding her that divines are bound by a covenant to protect the planet, not destroy it. But Yuri, defiant as ever, points out she never took on the title of a divine, so their rules mean nothing to her. The battle escalates, with Yuya stepping up to mimic one of Usagi's moves to create an opening. It works. Usagi lands a powerful kick on Yuri, but her thirst for revenge drives her to tap into the vial's power, unleashing a scream so fierce Yuya struggles to stay standing. She charges at Usagi, and the two clash in a brutal exchange of blows. Just when things look dire, Akatsuki races into the fray, activating a holy ground skill that strips Yuri of her vial powers. Seizing the opportunity, Yuya knocks her out. Usagi explains that Akatsuki is one of the holy beasts who stand against the vial, just like the divines. With Yuri neutralized and unable to use her vial powers again, Usagi leaves her fate in Yuya's hands. But there's no time to celebrate. A monster suddenly appears behind Kaori. Without hesitation, Yuya takes it down with a single shot. Kaori, shaken but safe, stares at Yuya in disbelief. He awkwardly explains that this is what life is like in his world. A flicker of doubt crosses his face as he wonders aloud if she's scared of him now. He worries his strength and cheater status might make him unlikable. But Kaori smiles, gently reassuring him. She reminds Yuya he hasn't changed at all since the day he saved her. He's still the kind, selfless person she admires and that she has liked him ever since that first meeting, but that's where the series ends for now. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.